Yes, I am, I guess, the person with the oar for Workstream 3. And Workstream 3 is motivated really at the very foundation of the center. We are an educational institution. We take educational priorities very seriously. And there is an educational gap in the health sector. We're not training providers the right way. We're not informing health policymakers with the right piece of information. There really is a great need to rethink how we're providing healthcare education, and there's a great need to create an interdisciplinary synthesis of educational offerings. I guess two messages. Number one is that educational offerings is an enormous priority at the very center of the Margolis Center. And number two, we're going to try to think of how to create educational offerings in a different way. It's not just expanding on traditional paradigms, but really trying to rethink how we offer healthcare education and health policy education. So those are the two main messages. Number one, we're taking this very seriously, trying to do lots of different things. There are three categories to that first point. And the second point is that we're really trying to be interdisciplinary and trying to be innovative. And we are trying to, we're approaching the healthcare education the same way we're approaching the healthcare system, which is that there are a lot of forces of tradition that ossify effective education, and we really need to rethink and be innovative. So we have an education and workforce development work stream. There are three prongs to our priorities. Number one is undergraduate education, that's the upper left. Second is graduate education, that's the upper right. And the third is executive education. I want to talk very briefly about what our initiatives are in each of those, including what some of our ideas or aspirations are in each of those. But if there's another main point, it's the following. What we're really trying to do is be a conduit between providers of education, or those who have content, and those who have platforms. We are very keen on synthesizing and creating meetings between those who might say have an audience or are currently engaging in educational activities and want to introduce a policy component. And we want to provide an audience for those who have some meaningful educational content and are looking for an audience. So what are we trying to do? For undergraduate education, we are creating a curricular pathway for healthcare policy concentrators. We've already instituted a couple of new courses, including an expansion of the Introduction to Healthcare Policy, that's Public Policy 165. We are offering a new Bass Connections course, I'll talk about that in a minute. And we're recruiting new faculty members to create new offerings. There is an unmet gap, there is an unmet need, and we're hearing it a lot from the students. So we are trying to create a conduit between those who have the expertise, whether it's in Washington or Durham, and the students who are looking forward to it. For graduate opportunities, again, we have a bunch of things already in the books. We are collaborating with the School of Medicine to create a new healthcare policy offering. This will feature a series of lectures from a number of different Margolis faculty members. This will be inherently interdisciplinary. A quick note on that. It is, I think, really remarkable, and it says a lot about Duke, that we are hearing vociferous demands from our medical students. Our medical students are coming to us and saying, look, we understand the value of a really valuable clinical education, but we also really need to be informed about policy. We need to know how healthcare is paid for. We need to know how it's organized. We need to know how to engineer change within our healthcare delivery system. This is, first of all, the right. They really do need all these things, and it is part of the central educational gaps that we have identified as a priority. This comes from Bob Margolis himself. But it really is kind of remarkable that we're hearing this from the medical students themselves. They are keenly aware of the new environment they're going to be practicing in, and they are keenly aware of what they need to be prepared for it. We are working with the Sanford School to enrich public policy, healthcare policy offerings in their Masters of Public Policy. One thing we really would like to do is recruit, you might say, super students. We'll call them Margolis Fellows. These are people that we will tap in from the very beginning at the application stage. And not only will we create a community of Margolis fellows, these are people who are Masters of Public Policy students who are keen on studying health policy, but we will create a particular educational pathway that really culminates in some very meaningful internships and very meaningful research opportunities. And of course, we are working closely and look forward to working closely with Leslie Curtis and Hayden Wadsworth as they develop their population health sciences department. Moving forward, we are very, very keen on collaborating more, especially with the provider sector and with the provider classes, with the School of Nursing, with the School of Medicine. And also, thanks to Greg Daniel, we are also developing a collaboration with the UNC Eshelman School in Pharmacy. So it's another illustration of how not only are we being interdisciplinary, but we're being interdepartmental, inter-university, intercity, and we really value the kind of collaborations that happen when you have people from different disciplines. The third component, remember the three prongs are undergraduate, graduate, and executive. We're doing a number of different. We're starting a number of different initiatives in the executive education space. The one I think that we're most excited about, it's still in the works. We haven't signed on the dotted line yet, but we're creating what we might be overusing or abusing this term. We're creating a Margolis Fellows program, or Margolis Scholars program. These are a community or a network of upper to mid-level executives in the healthcare space, where they come from different communities, have similar challenges, and come here not only for some retooling, some classes in health policy, classes in leadership and organization, but also to use Margolis researchers and resources to help them engage into a research project. So this is a year-long project that involves both classroom and research endeavors. We really hope that this will be a model for future executive offerings where we can really bring the different resources of the university together in a coherent educational experience. We also look forward to collaborating with Dev Sangvai and others who are leading the Physician Leadership Academy and the Duke Clinical Leadership Program. These are other educational initiatives that happen at Duke that engage with different providers, current providers, including those that are involved in the medical societies. So I believe that's my last slide, and now I will introduce Barak Richman, but I will also introduce Don Taylor and Mary Klopman. The three of us, you might say, are going to give a little ping on undergraduate, what we're doing on the undergraduate front, on the graduate front, and on the professional front. And I'll start. I mentioned before that we're initiating a Bass Connections project. And this illustrates not only our commitment to undergraduate education, but also our commitment to really trying to, I won't say reinvent, I'll say apply current knowledge on education. A lot of both undergraduate and medical education is very lecture-oriented, it's very traditionally oriented, and the Bass Connections Initiative, which is university-wide and predated the Margolis Center, has an emphasis on interdisciplinarity, on problem-based education, and on experiential learning, and on service and learning, and uniting service with learning. So we are creating a Bass Connections that's dedicated to the future of Medicaid in North Carolina. When I say we, I'm talking about myself and Don Taylor, who's a policy, and people at the School of Nursing, and other people at the law school, and people at the medical school. This is deeply interdisciplinary. And we're going to be combining students. Another element of the Bass Connections experience is vertical integration. We're going to have graduate students and we're going to have undergraduate students. And this is all going to be designed, geared up towards developing a proposal for Medicaid. Well, we don't know if it's reform. We don't know if it's expansion. But it's the future of Medicaid. And a lot of it depends on what happens in November. And in fact, actually, we're going to be very keen on what happens in November. We're going to adjust accordingly. So what we'll be doing is we'll be coming up with a proposal. We'll be teaming up with members of North Carolina Civic Society. We're going to be teaming up with scientists and researchers. We're going to be teaming up with policymakers. And we're going to try to synthesize a product that we hope is useful to the legislature and the governor and CMS, whoever controls them, in January 2017. So it's an illustration of a new course. It's an illustration of an effort to bring Margolis educational priorities to the undergraduate level. And it really is an illustration of how we are trying to create an alternative or an innovative or a non-traditional educational offering, one that brings different disciplines together, one that is very active and participatory, and one that is very translational, one that really has a very direct eye on trying to figure out how to interpret real-world evidence into very specific policy proposals. So that's both the introduction and the undergraduate component. I also invite Don to talk about the Bass connections because he's going to be a partner in crime for that also, but we're especially keen on hearing from him about the future of the Margolis collaboration with the Stanford School.
Hey, so probably the last 10 years at graduation, the public policy faculty will say something like, man, why don't we have more Masters of Public Policy students who are doing the health policy pathway? So May 2016, out of about 70 graduates, 3 students did the health policy pathway. And so we believe, and we have believed for a long time, that that's punching way below our weight. And what Margolis has done, as I give Barak a lot of credit, he has just sort of insisted that we talk about this over and over again. And we had earlier in May a cross-campus discussion of basically every group we could think of who was involved in the education, health policy education at Duke. And we had a discussion. And the short version is that the School of Public Policy, my home school, has agreed that Margolis is putting forth and going to head up a plan to try to recruit 10 to 12 in the next year's class, 10 to 12 students who will be health policy focused. So Margolis Fellows, as Barak said. So this is not the creation of a new program as a first step here, but it is taking a program that exists, which is a very highly ranked program, but which has consistently not done as well as we might otherwise do in health policy. And so we really hope to accelerate the health policy offerings of the Masters of Public Policy program. And a key part of what we're going to try to do is take a lot of this education outside the walls of Duke, which is to set up really good internships, which all the students have to do between their first and second years, have organizations to host them, real world experience, and then hopefully maybe even some of these students will get jobs in these places, and then it becomes a self-perpetuating system where those students then later become the host and so on and so forth. So this is an example of the Margolis Center actually helping to change and alter, really to bring about something that we've sat around and said, we need to do this, and it's been the catalyst to go ahead and take a step. So next is to Mary Klopman. There's Mary, yes.
So I'm going to focus on one part of our education initiative, which is really the postgraduate medical education. At any given time at Duke, there's over 800 trainees, which is an amazing opportunity. They're in every specialty. They're usually among the best in the country. And the reason that we attract them here is not only we can train them clinically, but we can offer them something else, that other part of a career development. And what I've noticed over the last couple of years is that the definition of scholarship from the incoming trainees is a lot broader than the more traditional scholarship of an academic health system around basic and clinical research. And that scholarship really does have to be scholarship that has impact. They are much more interested now in doing things and learning things that are going to have an impact in the fairly near future. So I think policy becomes a great carrot for us to attract a really exciting group of trainees. And I use the management leadership residency program as an example. That program was set up several years ago, realizing that we needed to start training leaders in the business of medicine. That has been tremendously successful. I believe George, aren't you a trainee of the graduate of that residency? That was a program where we were able to attract MD, MBAs from the top programs in the country to come to Duke. It's absolutely a win for everybody because they become leadership in our health system. And I'd love to see that kind of a culture develop around health policy, where we start attracting students to our residency programs that have some experience, but come here because we offer them the opportunity to build their clinical career, but also their other scholarship around health policy. And the way we do that is a number of ways. First is certainly having access to projects. And fortunately, a lot of the medical school faculty are very much engaged in the Margolis Center. But the next level is to really take a smaller group and really allow them to train as leaders around health policy. So I would like to put forth to the group that we really do consider developing a training track very similar to management and leadership around policy. It will probably add more time to training, but usually that's something that our trainees interested, they want to do that. So hopefully we'll be able to move some of these ideas forward in the next year or two.
Great. Mary, thank you very much. All right. So I'd like to thank all of our presenters for helping us through a whirlwind tour of the overall strategic framework that hopefully you all have seen. If you haven't, let us know. It's available now. Illustrations of it. I think Mary's comments at the end about reimagining what clinical leadership is like to include the opportunities that clinicians have to lead in healthcare reform and improving health is a great example of where this center can build on some strong resources at Duke, but hopefully you've heard about a lot of other ones during the course of this discussion. We have a couple of minutes before break. I know this is a pretty dedicated group to be here on the Friday afternoon before 4th of July holiday, and it's, I think, a recognition of just how much opportunity and interest there is around these programs. Any questions, comments before we go to the break about the overall strategic plan that we've just tried to illustrate for you? Everybody thinking? Everybody ready for a cookie? Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break now. When we come back, we're going to talk about not just the strategic plan itself, but about putting the strategic plan into action. You've heard some examples of early illustrations of the projects that we're undertaking, building on a lot of Duke and policy resources that this program is uniquely bringing together. We're also going to talk about some bigger initiatives that are getting underway now that build on the strategic framework that you just heard about, and our efforts around communication and linking up with other major resources at Duke as part of the center as well. So thank you all very much. I want to thank especially our presenters and all of you who contributed to the initial strategic plan that we just presented. Thank you. And back in 10 minutes, about 2:40. Thank you.